Pittsburgh Steelers. It's our last team, 32 of 32.
Beautiful.
For those people who say that we hate the Steelers. We loved the Steelers draft. Both of us did. I think everybody loved the Steelers draft.
Yeah.
Number one, they trade up a few spots to get Broderick Jones, the tackle out of Georgia, at pick 14. They get Joey Porter Jr. at cornerback with the first pick of the second round, pick 32. Keanu Benton, the defensive tackle out of Wisconsin, is their second round pick. Tight end Darnell Washington falls all the way to pick 93 in round 3, the tight end out of Georgia. Love that pick given the value, the fall for Darnell Washington. Nick Herbig, one of my favorite players in the draft, round 4, pick 132. And then they don't pick again until round 7, where they pick up Corey Trice, who fell quite a bit, the cornerback out of Purdue.
Medicals, apparently.
Medicals. Spencer Anderson, the tackle out of Maryland, is their second, 7th round pick. So, look, it's easy to like drafts, once again, where big names seem to fall.
Yeah.
And there might be reasons why that happened. But overall, I think the Steelers did a great job of not only picking players where they should have, but definitely taking, whether there was a medical risk or whatever risk with Darnell Washington, with Corey Trice, all worthwhile gambles, much lower than they were expected to go.
Yeah. No, I love this draft. Washington is the interesting pick because, I mean, if you listen to this show before the draft, you would know that I'm not in love with Darnell Washington by any stretch. And it shocked me that he was being talked about as a potential first rounder based off what he brings to the table. But at some point in the draft, once these tight ends were flying off the board and we were getting through the second round and blah, 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 it's like, all right, even by my standards, we've gone too far here. Like, again, we've overcorrected. I get that there are reasons to be concerned about Darnell Washington, but there's enough to like that he should be gone already. So to get him in the 3rd round, pick number 93, I think is a steal. Broderick Jones, a lot of people had him as their number 1 tackle in the draft. Pittsburgh picks him up, gets to absolutely upgrade one of the 2 tackle spots they have. And then Joey Porter Jr., obviously you get the story of him, going to his dad's old team, Joey Porter Sr., the outside linebacker for Pittsburgh back in the day. It's a nice sort of symmetry there. But I also think Porter's a better player than people are giving him credit for. He's seen as the best press man corner in this draft. Perfect fit schematically going to Pittsburgh. They play a lot of press man, so that's good. B, I think he can be more than that. Like, I genuinely think he has a lot more skills in zone coverage, or at least the ability to be really good in zone coverage once you iron out a couple of sort of kinks in his game. Joey Porter at pick number 32 is a steal.
Yeah, Omar Khan is his first full draft as the GM with the Steelers, his first full offseason as GM with the Steelers. And I think Pittsburgh came into the draft without a ton of needs. Look, it's easy to get caught up in either big name signings or big names who fall in the draft. And I don't know if all of them are going to work out for the Steelers.
Of course not.
Trading for Allen Robinson, right? But we talk a lot about swinging for the fences and the ceiling and all that stuff. It's a high ceiling draft for the Steelers because of all of this, right? Including, that's on top of trading a 7th for Allen Robinson.
Right.
Bringing Allen Robinson into the mix to be with George Pickens and Deontay Johnson and Calvin Austin III, you're doing well by your quarterback. You're doing well by Kenny Pickett, who showed some flashes last year, but you want to up the production, the red zone production, and the actual points that you're putting on the board in Pittsburgh. You add Darnell Washington to Pat Freiermuth, who's already becoming one of the better all-around tight ends, and Washington can be your 2 and be a run-blocking tight end who's just going to create some mismatches here and there. How about that red zone package with Darnell Washington and George Pickens and Allen Robinson, the potential there? So I just like the way the team is being put together.
Yeah.
And it's tough for me to say because it's in our contract that we're not supposed to say nice things about the Steelers. It's a PFF axiom that you can't say nice things about the Steelers.
You're actually getting fined for this show?
Yeah, I'm willing to eat the fine because I like the way the Steelers are building their team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you on the Joey Porter Jr. thing. And again, he doesn't have to step in and start. He probably competes to start, with Ahkello Witherspoon. He probably, the Steelers probably want him to take over for Witherspoon. But you bring in Patrick Peterson, and it's a decent group for this year and for the future.
Did you see the little pep talk that Joey Porter Sr. was giving him?
No.
As he was sliding out of the first round, he was basically talking about how we're going to use this. There's going to be chip on the shoulder material. And he was like, you did nothing wrong. Like, this is just the way the draft goes sometimes. And blah. It was good little thing. You can Google and find the little talk. It's funny. Like,
we need to analyze all the guys who've had chips on their shoulders historically. If that translates to production.
It is very easy sometimes to commodify players and just sort of treat them as abstracts and just pieces, right? But you do get not so much at the draft because the networks aren't actually great at this at the time. It's just
they try to exploit the stories by staring at Will Levis the whole time in the green room.
Well, they try and exploit
looking at his sad face. That's the network make it into a much bigger story than it should be.
Right. They try and exploit the story, and they don't bring you any depth to it. It's just like here's the living room scene of this player, and everybody's happy. It's like, all right, yeah, fine, but it's only after the draft where you start to see the little videos of the little moments or the little things that are said that humanize the whole thing. You know? So you've got Joey Porter Sr. giving Joey Porter Jr. the pep talk. You've got Quentin Johnston, who as a player we've been reasonably negative about overall, but Johnston getting this moment of saying, his mother's going to retire tomorrow. Like, I don't want you working again. I just hit the jackpot for all of us. Like, this is like, that's what there's a humanizing thing that gets lost along the way that is nice to reconnect with after the draft, with all these little moments that you see, and even players that you didn't like as players, as on-field commodities. They're people that just had their dream fulfilled this day.
Oh yeah, I mean we should definitely appreciate that a little bit more maybe than we do.
Yeah, which is nice to see, even if it's a player that you don't think is that great, or a player that you don't think is going to work out down the line. Like, that's a dude who
honestly, though,
has been working for this for his entire life and just hit the jackpot.
Again, as much as we joke about the model and numbers and all that stuff, that is why evaluators, that's why I could get behind Brad Holmes being like, Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell are our guys. Like, we love them so much. We believe in the people, and we want to work with those people, right? You're choosing the people that you're going to work with for the next 4 or 5 years. You and I have had some co-workers that we like and don't like, right? Maybe you don't. I
mean, everybody has.
Right? Everybody has. So you get to choose the people that you're working with. So you have to consider all of that stuff. Also, I can relate, Sam. When I went undrafted, I was very sad, and I went for a ride by myself and was like, man, what's going on?
3 times, right?
Yeah, the first time, I mean, in high school, I wasn't expecting to get drafted, but yeah, got passed up 4,500 times.
Yeah.
That hurt.
That's a lot of rejection.
A lot of rejection. But I used it for good. Chip on my shoulder.
Exactly.
I had the chip, and now I just eat all the chips.
Yeah, but it's also
used it.
It also makes it easy to understand why it's difficult sometimes for teams to, stick to the script, stick to what's supposed to be the correct way of doing it, right? Because they do sit down with these guys. You start to like people. It's only natural. Like you said, everyone's been around people they didn't like or liked. You've also been around people that you liked within 5 minutes of meeting them, and people that you hated within 5 minutes of meeting them. So when you sit down with all these prospects, when you bring these guys into your building, there are going to be guys you like right away, and you're like, man, I want to draft that guy. That guy's great. But the data is saying no. Your heart is saying, this guy, I love this dude, want to make his dream come true, want him to play for my team. But every piece of your data is saying, there's another guy over here who you don't like as much, is 10 times better.
I don't know how I would handle that if I was in the
isn't that the problem? Like, that's
in the
where
assistant GM seat, or if I was in one of those seats where we're all the brain trust is making decisions. I don't know how I would handle that. Like, this guy's a blue,
right?
But he's
And it's really easy to do from our seat where you don't have that connection with these people. And you're saying, how can you overlook what all the data is saying? Because you haven't had that. Like the scene in Moneyball, right, where he's like, why does Billy Bean or whatever his name is not travel on the plane with the players? It's like, he doesn't want to, he's got to cut these guys like tomorrow. He can't have that connection with them. It's got to be real. Like, that's got to be a problem.
Yeah. Just to circle back to the Steelers again, Keanu Benton, the second-round pick out of Wisconsin, very interesting profile. If you see some of the highlights, if you've surfed Twitter or just, watched him play, unbelievable get-off on the, off the ball, penetrates into the backfield. He does a lot of good stuff. Disruptive type of player. I think he's got a lot of pass rush potential. His run defense profile is not great. I mentioned yesterday's show, maybe it was Brian Brzee, 2 guys who had really good pass rush grades, not so great run defense grades. Benton's kind of in that bucket. But I like that in the second if you're going to use him right. I don't think you're getting this point of attack, nose tackle type, but you're getting maybe an interior pass rusher to complement Cameron Hayward and the edge rushers that they have in Pittsburgh. That's gonna pay off. And then Nick Herbig, the edge/linebacker, I really like a lot.
You think he moves to off-the-ball linebacker like full-time?
I think the NFL probably wanted him to. He is. I mean, so we've got this history of Wisconsin players doing that, right? With Joe Schobert, Zach Bond.
It's actually a weird run.
It is.
How do you find that many tweener-type edge rushers.
Those guys are pure edge rushers in college who became linebackers at the NFL. But Bond's done a little bit of hybrid stuff. Herbig, I think, can do a little hybrid stuff. When he played in space, he kind of moves well. Like he plays zone coverage pretty well. And I know the Steelers brought in Cole Holcomb and Landon Roberts to play linebacker. Like I'd give Herbig a shot to compete with those jobs, and then be a blitzer on third down to go with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and everything they have there. So I like Herbig. I think he's just a good. I talked to Renner about him. I'm like, man, is Herbig the best linebacker in this class? I was that excited about him, maybe other than Jack Campbell. And Renner's like, I don't know, but I just think he's going to be good.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to do, but I think he's going to be good. So love the Steelers draft. We gave it an A+, one of the few A pluses around the PFF draft grades over at pff.com.